In the wide brick plaza outside her company headquarters, Executive Dana Harrington is racing to a make-or-break investor meeting when her high-tech demonstration vehicle suddenly smokes, sputters, and shuts down right in front of a crowd already recording. Security panics. Her assistant freezes. No one moves, except a quiet, worn-down man in a faded denim jacket who steps forward and says, "If you'll allow it, I can fix it." Dana hesitates. The crowd laughs, but when the system's warnings turn critical, she realizes the stranger she overlooked is the only one who can save her entire future. Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe and tell me where you're watching from. The sun had only begun to warm the wide brick plaza as Dana Harrington stepped out of her sleek silver vehicle. Her shoes clicked sharply against the ground, the sound brisk and confident like everything about her. She was the kind of woman people moved for, not because she demanded it, but because her whole presence said she didn't have time to waste. Today was especially important. A major investor meeting. A deal that could keep her company alive for another decade. She'd practiced her talking points twice before sunrise, but right as she reached for her tablet, the car behind her gave a low, troubled groan. A sputter of warning lights flickered across the dashboard. The engine gave a sound that made every tech instinct in her spine jolt. "No. Not today," she whispered. A pair of hired security officers straightened immediately. "Ma'am? Issue with the vehicle?" She opened the door again, trying to keep her voice steady. "It's just a sensor glitch. I'll run a quick diagnostic." But the car disagreed. It coughed again, louder this time, followed by a sharp, metallic rattle that turned heads across the plaza. People stopped walking. A few even filmed. Dana climbed inside, tapping through the menus, trying to force the system to cooperate, when a voice came from somewhere behind her. "You're losing coolant pressure. Down to maybe 35 minutes before the core locks up." The words were calm. Too calm. The kind that came from someone who knew exactly what they were talking about. Dana turned. A man stood a few yards away, hands tucked into a worn denim jacket. His beard was trimmed but uneven, his clothes rough from nights outdoors. The kind of man most crowds stepped around without really seeing. He didn't step closer. He didn't shout. He only watched the failing car with the same focus a surgeon gives a beating heart. One of the security officers moved between them instantly. "Sir, stay back." But the stranger kept his eyes on the vehicle. "That smoke? That's your thermal housing overheating. You've got a crack in the lower line. If the pressure spikes, the whole system's gonna freeze up and shut down." Dana stiffened. "How would you know that?" she asked. He finally looked at her steady, unflinching. "Because I fixed about 1,000 systems that failed the exact same way." The guards exchanged a look. Dana felt irritation rising. She didn't have room in her morning for this. A stranger making guesses wasn't going to derail her schedule. "Security," she said quietly. "I need to handle this without interruptions." The taller guard stepped forward. "You heard her. Move along." The man didn't argue. He didn't defend himself. He simply nodded once, as if he'd expected the reaction. But before he backed away, he added, "You've got 34 minutes before the core hits shutdown. After that, that car's not driving anywhere for weeks." Dana froze. She hadn't shared any timing. She hadn't said anything about the system countdown she'd just seen. "How did you—" The guard spoke sharply. "Double quote, sir. Last warning." The stranger lifted his hands slightly, showing he meant no harm. His voice stayed calm, almost gentle. "I'm not trying to cause trouble. I'm trying to keep that machine from dying on you." Dana felt her patience thinning. She didn't want to admit it, but he didn't sound like someone guessing. He sounded like someone remembering. She straightened her blazer. "Thank you," she said, trying to keep her tone professional. "But my tech team is on the way." The man studied her for a moment. You don't have 2 hours to wait. Her breath caught. She hadn't mentioned the team timeline either. The guard bristled, stepping directly in front of him now. Sir, step back immediately. Dana forced her eyes away from the stranger and back to her screens, trying to convince her mind he was lucky with his guesses. But the system beeped. Red. Critical. She swallowed hard. 30-4 minutes. Exactly what he'd said. She tried to ignore the chill knifing through her chest. Behind her, she heard the stranger exhale slow, resigned. You're making the same mistake they made with me once, he said softly, ignoring a warning because it came from someone you don't trust. Dana looked up sharply. Something in his tone steady, tired, wounded made her chest tighten in a way she didn't like. She didn't know this man, but she knew pain when she heard it. He backed up another step, giving space, giving respect, giving her every reason to dismiss him. But then the car shuddered again hard. The crowd fell quiet. Even the drones overhead paused in their lazy circles. Dana swallowed as the heat rose off the hood. She could feel every second slipping away. And for the first time that morning, she wasn't sure she had the right answer. Asterisk. For a long moment, Dana didn't move. The crowd around her kept a careful distance, watching the way smoke drifted from the car's grill, thin at first, then thicker, curling like gray ribbon in the cool air. She could feel the heat rising in waves. She tried ignoring the stranger's warning, but the beeping from the dashboard only grew sharper, more urgent. One of the guards bent toward her window. Ma'am, this isn't safe. We should escort you back inside. Dana didn't respond. Her mind was spinning through numbers, deadlines, consequences. Her entire morning had been planned down to the breath, every second accounted for, and yet everything had unraveled in less than a minute. She glanced toward the man again. He was standing near the edge of the plaza now. Hands lowered, gaze steady. He wasn't angry, or smug, or pushy. That somehow made it worse. Her assistant jogged up from the far side of the plaza, clutching a tablet. Dana, I just called ahead. The investors are already on site. They moved the meeting earlier because of the international call they have at noon. Dana closed her eyes briefly. Of course they had. How long? She asked. About 2 hours until they leave for the airport. 2 hours. And her car, her demonstration vehicle, her proof of competence, was seconds away from shutting down. She let out a slow, steady breath. Call the tech division. Tell them I need emergency support. Her assistant hesitated. I did. They're dealing with a major failure in the new prototype. All units are tied up. They said earliest support is, well, 2 hours. Dana felt the air leave her lungs. The guard tried again, voice gentle this time. Ma'am, we need to move you back. But Dana wasn't hearing him anymore. Her eyes drifted back to the stranger on the curb. He stood motionless, almost like he was giving her space to decide the kind of person she wanted to be in this moment. He'd said 34 minutes. The dashboard had said the same. He'd predicted the pressure loss, the smoke, even the timing. She didn't want to trust him. But she couldn't ignore him, and maybe, just maybe, she didn't want to. She stepped out of the car slowly, ignoring the guard's soft protest. Sir? He lifted his head. I didn't catch your name, she said. Malik, he answered. His voice was low, even. Malik Turner. She nodded once. Are you a mechanic? He shook his head gently. No, not anymore. An uneasy flutter moved across her chest. Something in his tone carried weight, too much weight for a simple answer. Her voice softened. Then how did you know what's wrong? He glanced toward the car. I used to design systems like that. High-pressure cores, cooling grids, thermal housings. I know the way they fail. Dana blinked. You used to design them? He nodded. For a long time. She didn't know what to say next. The guard stepped forward again, confused and uncertain. Ma'am, I really don't think we should. She raised a hand lightly. It's fine. Then she turned back to Malik. You said the car has 34 minutes. How much time now? He watched the smoke, the vibrations, the flicker of lights across the dash. 32, he said quietly. Maybe a little less. Dana swallowed hard. And you can fix it? He didn't hesitate. I can try. I know what the problem is. I know what it'll take. But I'll need a few things first. Her assistant perked up, ready to run if needed. What things? Malik brushed a hand across the side of his jacket, thinking, thermal pads, sealant, a torque key. He paused. And a set of soft graphite sticks. Dark grade, Donna frowned. Graphite sticks? For drawing? For sealing microcracks, he replied. Graphite expands fast under heat. It's one of the quickest temporary fixes you can make if you know how to do it right. Her assistant straightened. There's an art store across the street. I can go now, Malik nodded. Hurry, every minute matters. The assistant took off at a sprint. Dana turned back to Malik. Why didn't you say you were an engineer? I did, he said simply. Just not the kind people believe anymore. Her breath caught at the quiet ache buried in those words. What happened? She asked softly. He crouched near the front of the car, examining the damaged seam. A report, he said. A bad one. Someone on my team ignored protocol to hit a deadline. When the project failed, they blamed me. Paperwork moves faster than truth in places like that. Dana felt a sharp pulse of sympathy, unexpected, unwanted, but real. Were you cleared? His jaw tightened a little. 2 years later. 2 years? He nodded. Double quotes by then. It didn't matter. Folks only remember the headline, not the correction. And once a story paints you as the villain, it sticks. He gave her a small, tired half-smile. Hard for a black engineer with no money and no lawyer to argue with that. Easier for everyone to just look away. Dana felt something twist deep inside her. She'd done the same thing just minutes ago. She'd seen the jacket, the worn shoes, the tired face. And she'd made a decision without knowing a single thing about him. Malik didn't push the point. He didn't seem angry, only honest. And that honesty hit harder than anything else. She whispered, I'm sorry. He shook his head lightly. You didn't build the system, Dana. You just believed it worked. Her chest tightened. She had no answer for that. The car coughed again loud, this time spitting out another burst of heat. Malik glanced at the dash. 31 minutes, he murmured. He stood, wiping his hands on his jeans. Your assistant better run like the wind. Asterisk, the plaza had fallen into a hush. The kind that settles over a place when everyone senses they're watching a moment that shouldn't be interrupted. Dana stood beside the failing car, palms damp, throat tight. She had spent years projecting control, confidence, precision. Yet here she was depending on a man she'd met less than 10 minutes ago. Malik knelt beside the vehicle again, studying the lower seam. His fingers hovered over the metal like he was listening to something only he could hear. Pressures climbing fast. He murmured, Once your assistant gets back, we're working against a clock. Dana nodded, though her stomach twisted with worry. A distant shout echoed across the plaza. Her assistant sprinted toward them, one hand clutching a small black bag, the other holding a narrow tube of graphite sticks. I got everything, he yelled, breathless. Malik stood, wiped his hands on his jacket, and exhaled with quiet relief. Good. Bring it here. The assistant nearly stumbled, but made it. Malik opened the bag and scanned the contents with the sharp, practiced eyes of someone who'd solved problems under pressure too many times to count. Thermal pads. Good. Torque key. Good. Sealant. He lifted a small tube. Perfect. Then he picked up the graphite sticks. These will do. Dana stepped closer, unable to hide the tremor in her voice. Tell me what you're doing. Malik glanced at her. steady and calm, saving your engine. He knelt and opened the front panel. A wave of heat rolled out, enough to make everyone nearby take a half step back. Everyone except Malik. Dana watched his hands move slow, precise, controlled. There was a rhythm to it, almost like he'd done this in another lifetime. The kind of lifetime where people respected him enough to ask for help. Not chase him off sidewalks. He started fitting thermal pads along a narrow channel. This keeps the heat from spreading, he explained. Not looking up. Dana found herself listening like a student. What about the graphite? That'll seal the crack once I stabilize the pressure line. He leaned further in, eyes locked on the gauges. But I have to bring the pressure down just enough to work, without triggering a full shutdown. He reached for the torque key. You've done this before? She asked softly. He gave a small nod. A long time ago. A burst of steam hissed from the engine. Dana flinched, but Malik didn't move. The guard nearest them muttered, "This is insane." Dana shot him a sharp look. Let him work. Malik's hands moved with a surgeon's certainty, each motion small and deliberate. Dana watched sweat trail from his forehead, catching the sunlight. His breathing remained calm, steady, even when a loud, metallic rattle shook the entire front of the car. He didn't flinch. He turned a valve slowly, painfully slowly. A thin stream of pressure hissed out. Dana's breath caught. Is that supposed to happen? Yes, he said. Then he whispered, almost to himself, hold. Hold. The hiss softened. The vibrations eased. Malik exhaled, pressures leveling. Dana let out a shaky breath of her own. He reached for the graphite stick, snapped the end clean, and began pressing it gently into a hairline fracture along the metal seam. The graphite darkened instantly, absorbing heat, spreading in a thin line. Graphite expands fast when the metal heats it, he said. Forms a temporary seal. She watched, fascinated. You learned that where? Aeronautics lab. Late-night repairs. Low-budget equipment. He smiled faintly. You get creative when you're underpaid. Dana's heart tugged unexpectedly at that. He brushed sealant over the graphite, smoothing it with a gloved hand. Another minute, he murmured. Her assistant hovered nervously. Can you really say that? Malik kept working. I don't think. He tightened one last clamp and leaned back. I know. The car rumbled again, this time softer, steadier. The red lights on the dash flickered, then shifted to a dull orange dot, not perfect, but no longer critical. Dana felt something loosen in her chest. A tension she didn't realize she'd been carrying for years. Malik kept his eyes on the readings. You'll get about 3 hours out of this, he said. More than enough to get through that meeting. After that, you need a full replacement of the cooling grid. Dana nodded slowly. You just saved my company. Malik shrugged lightly. I just fixed what was broken. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The guard, still wary, cleared his throat. Ma'am, even if the car's stable, we can't be sure. Dana cut him off with a raised hand. It's stable, she said firmly. Because he made it stable. The guard looked unconvinced but stepped back. Malik stood, wiping his hands on his jeans again. There was a quiet dignity in the simple motion. I should go, he said softly. You've got a big day. Dana stared at him, startled by how much she didn't want him to walk away just yet. Wait. He paused. She swallowed. You did all this for a stranger who treated you poorly. He looked at her, then really looked. And his eyes weren't angry. They were understanding, sad, and kind in a way she couldn't quite bear. You weren't the first, he said gently. You won't be the last. People make quick judgments. Systems encourage it. But fixing things, that's still what I know how to do. He nodded once. And you needed help. Dana felt her throat tighten again. Before she could answer, the dashboard beeped a new alert, a much calmer one. Malik smiled faintly. See? She's breathing again. Asterisk for a moment. No one moved. The plaza felt suspended, caught between the fading smoke and the lingering tension that still clung to the air. Dana stared at the car's dashboard as the warning softened to dim orange pulses. It wasn't perfect, but it was alive, running, moving toward stable. She let out a breath she hadn't realized. She'd been holding. Her assistant wiped his forehead. The guards exchanged uneasy looks. The small crowd that had gathered slowly began to drift away, whispering among themselves. But Donna's eyes stayed on Malik. He stepped back another foot, almost shyly, like he didn't want to intrude on her relief. "You're clear to go," he said softly. "But you should head out soon. The seal will hold, but not forever." Dana swallowed, her voice still thin. "Malik, why are you helping me?" He looked down at his hands, scraped, tired, stained from work he hadn't been hired for in years. "Because something was breaking," he said simply. "And I knew how to stop it. Most people wouldn't jump in that quickly." He gave a small, sad smile. "Most people don't see me." Her throat tightened again. Behind her, one of the guards muttered under his breath, "Ma'am, we should really get you moving. You can debrief in the car." Dana didn't move. "Just a moment," she said. She stepped closer to Malik, trying to read the lines on his face. There was a story there, a long one etched deep into the quiet way he carried himself. "I made assumptions about you," she admitted. "And I shouldn't have." Malik nodded once, polite but distant. "You were protecting yourself. People in charge usually are." That stung more than she wanted it to. "Still," she said quietly, "I'm sorry." He looked up then, meeting her eyes fully. There was no accusation in his gaze, only a weary kindness. "You don't owe me anything," he said. "That doesn't mean the apology isn't real." He studied her for a moment, then gave a slow nod of acceptance. A gust of wind swept across the plaza, pushing a ribbon of cooling smoke away from the hood. Malik stepped toward the rear of the car again, lifting a small panel to double-check his work. Dana watched his movements, careful, deliberate, confident. He didn't flinch from the heat or the grime. This was a man who once belonged somewhere important. Somewhere he'd been pushed out of. Somewhere he deserved to still be. When he straightened, the guard nearest them cleared his throat impatiently. "Ma'am, with all due respect, you're cutting it really close to your meeting now." Dana blinked, pulled from her thoughts, the meeting, the deal, the entire reason she'd arrived early, organized, practiced, in control. She looked back at Malik. "Do you need a ride somewhere?" she asked. His eyes widened slightly, as if he hadn't expected kindness to be an option. But then he shook his head. "No, thank you. I'll walk." "You helped me," she insisted. "It's the least I can do." He gave her that same quiet smile. "You don't owe me anything," he repeated softly. She hesitated, but he didn't. He stepped back, one foot, then another. A man used to disappearing before he took up too much space. Dana felt a flicker of panic, brief, surprising. "Please wait." He stopped. I don't like the idea of you just walking away after all this," she said. "Feels wrong." He turned fully now, hands tucked loosely in his pockets. "Dana," he said gently, "you've got someplace important to be. And I've learned not to stand too close to places I'm not wanted." "You are wanted," she said, louder than she meant to. Her guards stiffened. Her assistant looked stunned. Malik froze. Dana pressed on, more certain now. "You're the reason I still have a chance today. You belong in this moment just as much as I do." Malik looked down, as if absorbing that idea was harder than repairing the engine. When he lifted his head again, the weariness in his eyes had softened. "Thank you," he said quietly. "That means a lot." A soft beep came from the dashboard, another reminder that time was slipping. Malik nodded toward the driver's seat. "You should go now." Dana didn't move. "Will you stay here until I get back?" "At least let me," He raised a hand gently, stopping her. "You've got your fight to win," he said. "This fix will hold long enough." She wanted to argue, wanted to ask more, wanted to give something back, but Malik had already taken a slow step backward, then another. Not retreating, just giving space. The same way he always had. Donna's heart pulled hard in her chest. "Malik," she said softly. He paused again. She didn't know why the words felt so heavy. But they did. "I won't forget this." He nodded once. "I don't expect you to." And with that, he turned slightly toward the sidewalk, far enough that the morning crowd began to fold around him again, treating him like another passerby. Another face, another shadow, someone the world would never look twice at. But Dana was looking. And something deep inside her whispered that she wasn't done with this man's story. Not by a long shot. Dana slid into the driver's seat, feeling the warmth of the engine settle into a steady hum, not perfect, but steady. The soft orange glow on the dashboard pulsed like a heartbeat, slowly finding its rhythm again. She took one last look in the rearview mirror. Malik stood at the edge of the plaza, hands in his pockets, face calm. The wind tugged at his jacket, carrying away the last wisps of smoke drifting from her car. He didn't wave, didn't nod, didn't claim credit. He simply existed in that quiet space. The man who saved her morning, saved her meeting, and maybe saved her from herself. The guards climbed in behind her. Impatient. "Ma'am, we need to go. Traffic's already building." "Just a second," Dana said softly. She opened the door again and stepped out. Malik looked surprised to see her walking toward him, heels tapping against the cement in long, steady strides. She stopped a few feet away, close enough to speak quietly, far enough not to corner him. He lifted his gaze. "You should be on the road," he said. "I know." She studied him for a long moment. His posture was loose but guarded. His eyes held a lifetime she hadn't earned the right to understand yet. But there was something else there too, something she hadn't noticed earlier. Hope, small, fragile, almost invisible. "But there, Malik," she said gently, "you told me people stopped believing you." He nodded once. "After the report, yeah. Once a story sticks, you learn to live with the empty spaces." Dana's eyes softened. "You shouldn't have had to." He exhaled. Tired but patient. "It's the way things go sometimes." She shook her head slowly. "No, it's the way things went. Not the way they have to stay." He blinked, almost startled by her firmness. Dana reached into her pocket and pulled out a slim business card. She offered it to him, careful not to push it into his hand, just holding it gently in the space between them. "I want you to call me," she said. "After my meeting. After you've had some time. Whenever you're ready." He looked at the card, but didn't take it. "Why?" he asked quietly. Dana steadied herself. "Because I run a company that's losing the very thing you still have, someone who knows how to fix what's broken. Someone who doesn't panic under pressure. Someone who sees a problem and understands the heartbeat of it." She took a breath. "I need people like that. And whether you realize it or not, you still are that person." Malik stared at her for a long, difficult moment, wrestling with something silent inside him. People passing by cut through the space between them, barely noticing either of them. But Dana held still, patient, offering him a chance no one else had in years. Finally, Malik reached out and took the card, not with eagerness, not with disbelief, but with something deeper. Dignity. He slipped it carefully into his jacket. "Thank you," he said, soft, steady, real. Dana felt a warmth rise in her chest. "Don't thank me yet," she said lightly. "Wait until you see the paperwork." A faint smile tugged at the corner of his mouth. She stepped back toward her car. "I'll be waiting for your call." Malik nodded once, the wind brushing gently past them like a quiet blessing. "And Dana?" he said. She paused. "You'll do fine today." The words landed with unexpected weight. She smiled, small but certain. "I hope you're right." When she climbed back into the car, her assistant whispered, "Who is he?" Dana buckled her seatbelt. "Someone we all should have listened to sooner." The guard muttered something under his breath, but Dana didn't ask what. She started the car as the engine warmed into that steady, repaired hum. As they pulled away from the plaza, Malik's figure grew smaller in the rear window, then blurred, then disappeared around the corner, but he didn't fade in her mind. Not even a little. The city moved around her in a blur of lights and motion, but inside the car, she felt a strange new stillness, a calm born from truth, and from a simple, undeniable fact. Sometimes the person who fixes your machine is the same person who fixes something in you. The meeting began with tension in the air. Investors, seated like judges, documents arranged precisely, expressions sharp. Dana stepped to the front, heart steady, voice firm. She gave her pitch with a clarity she hadn't felt in months, and when they asked how she planned to handle the technical failures that had plagued the last quarter, she didn't flinch. "We're making changes," she said, "starting with the people we trust to solve the hard problems." Her voice softened. "And today, I was reminded that brilliance can come from places we don't expect." One of the investors tilted his head, curious. "Anyone in particular?" Dana smiled faintly. "You'll hear his name soon." The meeting lasted an hour. The decision came 15 minutes later. The deal was approved. As she rode back through the city sun higher, tension lifted. Future brighter, Dana found herself scanning the sidewalks, half hoping to catch sight of Malik again. She didn't, but she didn't need to, because she knew, whether it came in a day or a week or a month, he would call. And when he did, she wouldn't just offer him a job, she would offer him back a world that should never have been taken from him, a world he deserved, a world he'd earned, a world where someone finally said, "I see you."